Hey guys, on our California Haunts Radio, we're going to be talking about Santa's reindeer and their names. You'd be surprised how things have changed over the years and what the meaning of their names are. I'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey everybody, how you doing? Oh my god, my hat's crooked. Look at this, man. I don't know what I'm thinking. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be here. Look at that. Jack's always falling over, isn't he? They actually said to stuff this with toilet paper, and I think I'm going to. Oh, look. Now they're waving. Okay, my name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you have a paranormal need, we can help you. It might take us a while to get to you. California is a huge state. You don't realize it. You know, when people think of California, they think of beaches, just like Hawaii, right? They think of beaches and surfers. Well, it's like that. But there's also a lot of rural areas. There's mountains. You got desert. You got everything. California has everything. Now, California could break off and be its own like world state, like the United States is, be its own continent. But in the case that we don't get out to you in time, because it might take us a couple days, we have psychics on staff who could help us with that, and that they'll call you and talk to you and discuss your situation. And if it is paranormal, what is up with Sally? Looks great, but Sally looks crooked, doesn't she? She looks weird. Uh, little things like that. I've got OCD. Little things like that get to me. But in the case that we can't get out to you right away, they'll talk to you, and if it is paranormal, they can, in most cases, calm things down enough until we get out there to deal with whatever's happening. Okay? So look us up. We're on Facebook, and you can find us on Facebook at California Haunts, California Haunts Radio, California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, California Haunts Ghostly Events, and the Sacramento Seers, SEERS. Shoot us a message. We are also on Twitter under California Haunts, and we're over at TikTok under California Haunts. And you can find us on TikTok under California Haunts Radio as well. And we're on Instagram as it's Ghosty Gal, lowercase. And we're on Twitch as Cal Haunts. You can also find us at meetup.com at California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team. And of course, we have our YouTube site at youtube.com/at California Haunts Radio. Quick reminder for everybody over here that has a TikTok account. I will be going, as soon as this show is over, I will be switching to TikTok. And that will be 8:15 p.m. Pacific. I got to get things set up over there. I'm going to be switching to Studio A, the big studio, and I'm going to build out another gingerbread house on TikTok tonight. So give me until around 8:15 Pacific time tonight to get everything organized over there to do this build. I'm really excited about it because I had purchased 3 gingerbread houses. I had 2 smaller ones and a large one, and I'm going to be building the large one tonight. So join me for that, because you never know what's going to happen over there. You never know how the cameras are going to work, because that internet there's not the best, but we'll do our best, okay? We'll do our best to build this thing out, and you can help me. You know, give me suggestions of how we should do it. And I think we're going to have a good time. We had a good time the other night when I did it, for Facebook and YouTube. I think we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a great time. So join us over there again. If you haven't found us already over on TikTok, we are California Haunts on TikTok. All right. Tomorrow night, we're not going to be in the studio. We're going to broadcast live from Sacramento's Theater of Lights. Now, I did this stuff at Disneyland, so hopefully my experience from doing that. I got to thank Carrie Peoples because she was very patient with me with all the gear I was carrying. So hopefully I learned my lessons at Disneyland and it goes smooth, and you guys can see what's going on. I've got it tentatively scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Pacific. I do have one of my producers going out there with me tomorrow. So she gets off work. We got to figure that out, and sometimes it's hard to park. So there's two shows. There's an early show and a later show, so we could end up on attending either show depending on the parking situation in Old Sacramento. But we will definitely be there at the Theater of Lights. Or what will happen is if it's too packed up, we will take off and go to what they call the Fabulous 40s here in town, where they really deck their houses out, and we'll do the Christmas light tour then. But I hope, I think we're going to be pretty much sure at the Theater of Lights tomorrow. Okay, that being said, I had a friend that told me about this topic that I'm going to cover tonight, and it never really occurred to me, to look at Santa and look at Santa's reindeer. But when I started doing research, every Friday Nancy comes in here. She's got like 15, 20 pages worth of information that she's reading off of. Well, as I started to dive into this research, I realized that I was going to have at least 8, 9 pages to pull information from. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to go page by page. I'm going to give credit where credit's deserved, to these pages, and we'll just go and just look at the information. In fact, the first part I have is the history of Santa, the history of Santa's reindeer. A little bit of that came up last night when I was reading that history book, and something that caught my eye with that was that the Laps in Lapland, back in the olden times, because that book was written in 1908. So back in the olden times, the author stated that the Lapps didn't believe or didn't have anything like Santa Claus, or there was nothing like that there. Well, that's all changed. Modern times, Lapland is just below the Arctic Circle, so their big claim to fame now, and you can go online and Google this, is that Santa's village is up there. They have a hotel. They have a whole village built out of Santa Claus. You can go all year round and take your kids and visit Santa Claus and the reindeer. And it's interesting, like I said, because when you read that other book that we read last night, it specifically said, no, 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 they didn't believe in that stuff. But Lapland, I would, that would be, being me and who I am, I would love to hop a plane and go to Lapland and see it, because that's old timey Santa, right? So I would love to do that. And so that Santa is in fact up there. That's where Santa lives, right at the Arctic Circle. So I'm just saying. So that's how things change over the years. This thing with the names of the reindeer is interesting because each name means something. All right, it may be there may be a name for that reindeer in a different language, which is something I found out, and then we'll get into that later in the show here. But they also have meanings, just like maybe your name's meaning. I have a friend named Autumn, right? Does that make sense? Heather, people like that have names like that have meanings. And this is the same thing for Santa's reindeer, their meanings. I also found out that, you know, uh, a visit from St. Nicholas, which is what we know as the night before Christmas, wasn't the only thing written for the holidays. There's there's one other thing that was written, and the reindeer name in that one is completely different from what we know from Visit from St. Nicholas, right? And then you've got Disney factoring in Disney and their Santa Claus series. You got that factoring in, and there's also they added a reindeer, so there's a new reindeer in town. So we're going to start talking about that stuff, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I'm going to read this stuff, okay? Because it was just so much to try and jot it down. I didn't have time. I'm working my real job this past week, as a journalist, photojournalist. So I really did not have time to work on those stories and put all this information together. It was just overwhelming. So, this is what I'm just going to read off this stuff. So just bear with me with it. But I think you're going to be fascinated by what comes out of it, especially if you're a history buff. I have someone in my chat room. Let's see who's visiting me this evening. Shall we see? Karen Clark. It's Karen. Everybody go, hi, Karen. Did you hear that, Karen? Everybody said hi, Karen. I even forgot to put my banner on. Look at that. I'm way ahead of myself. I'm just yakking away here. Should I get the right one? Yeah. Okay. So here we go. And I'm going to start with the history. And I'm going to have to enlarge this because, as you guys know, I'm blind as a bat. So this is from A to Z, from AZ Animals. This is the AZ Animal page. And I might even put my reading glasses on for this because, well, I'm old and blind. So let's do this. I'm going to read directly off of it. I'll read some of this and then I'll dictate. There we go. There we go. So here we go. Okay, if you grew up in a place where Christmas is celebrated, there's decent chance that you've heard the song or at least the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But it turns out that Rudolph is only one of the more recent additions in mythology that dates back to the time before Christmas was even celebrated. The story of how Santa and his famous retinue of reindeer became a core part of Christmas tradition is more tangled than you might initially think. This is what I found out during my research. While Christmas has become a Christian religious holiday for many people, its history shows it to be more of a mixture of mythology, solstice celebration, and a suave advertising campaign. A study of the history involved shows that the reason for the season can be just about anything you want, depending on your beliefs. Reindeer in the Old World. And again, this is from A to Z Animals. Let me position this so I can read without blowing it out. You know, the guy that invented touchscreen is like a saint to me. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Because for old people with old eyes, the touchscreen is where it's at. Okay, so here we go. Reindeer in the Old World. Oh, I got my eggnog here too. Let me suck down some eggnog. Many of the old Christmas traditions that we celebrate today weren't created from anywhere, but instead developed as a synthesis of Christian doctrine with the pagan traditions that preceded them. Reindeer appear frequently throughout the mythology and history of the Arctic peoples. As one of the most prodigious sources of food and one of the last animals to be truly domesticated in the North, the reindeer, also known as the caribou, remember Polar Express, were often treated with both reverence and a sense of mystery. Cultures raging as far afield as Mongolia, Canada, and Scandinavia feature reindeer prominently throughout their legends and stories. And it's also through a secondhand understanding of these tales that the reindeer would become closely associated with Santa Claus. Did you guys know this too? The Olympians, when they ski, the World Cup, they get a reindeer as a reward. Whoever wins the race gets to take a reindeer home. Now, what they do with them, who knows? But if you look up, like if you look up any of those Olympians, Lindsey Vaughn, whoever you follow, I know she's retired now, but Michaela Schifrin, right? You will see that she probably is the proud owner of. See, she's won a lot of those things, right? Probably the proud owner of about 35 or 40 reindeer. So I don't know what they do with them. Maybe they just donate them back somewhere. So let's talk about Santa Claus really quick. Talk about his origins. And again, this is from A to Z Animals. While the notion of Santa Claus as a jolly elf wearing red is a relatively recent invention, a similar character has roots dating back much longer. Early Christian church leaders looking to convert pagans to their beliefs more readily decided to combine a celebration of Jesus Christ's birth with existing pagan holidays. Germanic and Nordic people would often celebrate the winter solstice as a tribute to the god of the head of their pantheon. Odin and Woden, and we talked about this in the other book. Okay, this was the first thing we talked about in the other book. Odin and Woden, or Woden, was a fatherly god and mystical hunter who would lead his warriors on a wild hunt during this time, and he'd do so on the back of an eight-legged horse named Sleipnir. Children would leave boots filled with hay and carrots for Sleipnir, and Odin was said to lead them gifts in return. Over the years, these ideas would come to merge with the Reverend St. Nicholas, and a vision of Jolly St. Nicholas would start to form in the public consciousness. Now, when did Santa's reindeer first appear? While characters resembling Santa Claus would circulate throughout the world in the centuries that followed, the notion of a sleigh pulled by reindeer wouldn't become prominent until the 19th century. It was at this time that America and England were both experiencing a renaissance of Christmas celebrations after a period of puritanical opposition to the holiday. Washington Irving referenced Santa Claus riding over the tops of trees in that self-same wagon in 1812, with no reference to steeds pulling the wagon. And you talk 9 years later now, the first known association between reindeer and Santa appeared in a poem entitled A New Year's Present. See, I told you. The unnamed deer are mentioned briefly and only in a single line. just dropped down. Thank you very much. The name of the author remained anonymous, but the poem's publisher revealed that the author had learned of reindeer thanks to his mother passing down indigenous stories of the creatures. So that's your first appearance of reindeer. 2 years later, and you're going to like this, the mythology of the reindeer expanded. The poem The Night Before Christmas was written by Professor Clement Clark Moore. Originally written as a story to entertain his daughters, Moore was initially hesitant to submit it to a publisher out of concerns that it was too silly. In fact, he kept his authorship of the poem a secret for decades out of concern that it would besmirch his reputation as a professor of ancient languages. But the poem would soon become a hit, and these 8 reindeer would remain the recognized members of Santa Claus's crew for well over a century. Now, the identity of Santa's original reindeer. Here we go. In The Night Before Christmas, originally identified 8 reindeer that led Santa Claus's sleigh every holiday. And while the poem gendered the reindeer as males, biology tells us, and this I found really interesting, that that couldn't be the case. Male reindeer shed both large amounts of body weight and their antlers after mating season, and that coincidentally falls right before winter. Only female reindeer would have the antlers and the stamina to pull a sleigh with one jolly fat man during the deepest days of winter. See that? Woman power. To give them more distinct personalities, the names seem to be chosen as much for how they fit within the rhythm of the poem than as a means to provide deeper personality. Many of the names are derived from German. Dasher is actually drawn from the German word for pursemaker. Donner and Blitzen, sometimes written as Dunder and Blixen, come from the German phrase for thunder and lightning. These are the 8 original reindeer as they appeared in Clement Moore's poem. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen. Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen. No Rudolph yet. Now we skip the Rudolph. While other authors would try to establish their own mythologies surrounding the reindeer, it would take over a century for another reindeer to be added to the roster and recognized on a global level. Despite being named as the most famous reindeer of all, and the song named after him, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was actually the result of a suave advertising campaign. Soda manufacturer Coca-Cola had found great success in the 1920s by releasing holiday ads that featured jolly old St. Nick drinking their brand of soda. Chicago department store Montgomery Ward saw the potential of a Christmas campaign for drumming up business, and they commissioned copywriter Robert L. May to create a character who could feature in who they could feature in free coloring books that were given out to kids. The character May designed worked partly because it came from a personal experience, with May drawing from his own experiences being pulled as a child to envision a lonely reindeer whose unique glowing nose offered a way to save Christmas. The character, along with the poems that Ward wrote about him, became a major hit. In the decades that followed, would receive a song, a movie, and countless other types of merchandise, far from being just the holiday spokesperson for the local department store. Rudolph actually became the most famous reindeer of all, despite attempts to introduce members of Rudolph's family, including a brother named Rusty and a son called Robbie. None have reached nearly the level of famous Rudolph. The truth The true origin of Santa's reindeer is a mix of ancient mythology and swamp marketing, but it's the inherent power of these creatures that manage to continue to hold our imagination. Their prolific distribution throughout the global tundras and their natural athletics and grace has made them a recurring presence throughout the countless mythologies. But the reindeer of the real world is just as fascinating. So there you go. That was by Krishna Maxwell. And that, once again, that is for A to Z animals. We're going to move on. I told you I learned a lot about these reindeer. We're going to go through now and we're going to talk about the names of the reindeer and what they mean. And they do have meanings. And let me get this thing going. And here's the song. All right, there we go. All right, let me get this up. This is kind of faded, so I'm trying to read this. And this is coming from Snow Magazine, Snow Ski Holidays Magazine, online. What are Santa's reindeer called? Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just popping back in the StreamYard. Okay, so let me get back in here. What are Santa's reindeer called? We all know Rudolph. But what are the names of the rest of Santa's faithful reindeer? They are, in fact, 8 original Christmas reindeer, as detailed by the famous poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, commonly known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Now, here we go. The names of Santa's reindeer. Let me enlarge this so I can see this bad boy. Okay. Dasher. Dasher gets his name because he is the fastest reindeer of the whole pack. He used to be lead reindeer, but was replaced by Rudolph because he kept going too quickly, and the rest of the group couldn't keep up. He first caught Santa's eye as a young calf when he challenged all the older reindeer to a race and comfortably beat them all. Every day since, he has not stopped trying to race the other reindeer, which really gets on their nerves because they all know he's going to win. Because of his natural speed, Dasher can get a bit complacent and often doesn't turn up to sleigh riding training. So Santa sometimes has to tell him off. Nice. Get this over now a little bit. See, I learned all this stuff. This is really cool to see this because this is stuff you don't see. Dasher, the reindeer with the most flair and elegance. Ever since Dancer could walk, all he wanted to do was dance. Constantly putting on performances for the other reindeer, Dancer was even offered a contract to perform on Broadway. But his ultimate dream was to work for Santa and to help deliver presents on Christmas Eve. Along with his twin brother Prancer, he studied hard at the Reindeer Aviation Academy in Lapland, back to Lapland, in order to graduate with his Christmas wings and achieve his ambition. Prancer, just like his twin brother, Prancer is a supremely graceful and majestic reindeer, except he is all too aware of it. Every Christmas Eve, Santa Claus has to drag him away from preening himself in the mirror and polishing his horns to go and deliver the presents on time. Prancer and Dancer are tied next to each other in the pack, so that Dancer can keep an eye on his easily distracted twin brother. Vixen. Voted as Reindeer Monthly's most beautiful reindeer of all time, Vixen always attracts a lot of attention from male reindeer. Cupid, in particular, is totally besotted with her prettiness and elegant flying style. It's no secret that Vixen enjoys this interest, however, as she is known as a notorious flirt and will flutter her long eyelashes at anyone to get her way. Don't we know people like that, right? Comet. Comet's the strongest of all the reindeer and is known for being a stubborn but loyal member of the team. He was named after an enormous comet which flew through the skies at the same moment he was born, which would foretell Comet's future as a famous flying reindeer. Cupid. Cupid is the most romantic and passionate of all the reindeer. Born on Valentine's Day, Cupid has taken it upon himself to act as a matchmaker amongst the Lapland reindeer. But unfortunately, he's not been as successful as with his own love life as he has with others, like celebrity couple Rudolph and Zoe. Zoe, there's a new one for you. I knew nothing about a Zoe. Madly in love with Vixen, he's constantly trying to impress her. Although Santa had to separate the two of them since Cupid kept flying into obstacles as he was unable to take his eyes off of her. Donner. Sometimes known as Donder and Dunder. Donder's name means thunder, and she is not a reindeer to be messed with. Married to Blitzen, they are the mum and dad of the reindeer group and have to discipline the younger ones if they step out of line. Donner looks after the the others from making sure their hooves are clean, to cooking hearty meals before their long journeys, and distributing presents. See, it's interesting because that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie, Donner is a male, just like in the Santa Claus movies with Disney, Donner is a male. So this is interesting. Blitzen, husband to Donner. Blitzen is the bravest member of the team, never one to back down or give up in the face of adversity. He encourages the rest of the team, even through the toughest storms, to make sure that they successfully deliver those presents on time for Christmas morning. His name means lightning. Some people say because he has been struck so many times, and together with Donner, they make a formidable couple that are the backbone of the magnificent bunch. Brings us back to Rudolph. Rudolph is the youngest and most famous of all the reindeer. This isn't true anymore, I'll tell you why. Universally celebrated for his heroics in the storm of 1939. How he was born with his legendary bright red nose, no one knows, but children all over the world are very glad he was, and he has led the team through many wintry nights as a shining beacon. At first, Dasher wasn't very happy to have been replaced as the lead reindeer, but after seeing how well Rudolph could guide the sleigh through even the thickest fog, he was quickly won over and only too happy to act as second in command. How many reindeer does Santa have? Traditionally, Santa's sleigh is pulled by 8, as in the 1823 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, now Vixen. On Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. Rudolph was introduced to the pack in 1939, and a famous story of stormy weather and heroism. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a small young reindeer with bright, luminous red nose. Rudolph was teased by the others for being different, and they didn't allow him to join in with all their fun activities. However, one Christmas Eve, the weather was so foggy that the reindeer kept getting lost and couldn't give out all of Santa's presents. Santa spotted Rudolph's bright nose and asked him to lead the sleigh as a guiding light for all the others to follow through the blizzard. Rudolph agreed, and Santa managed to give out all the presents successfully. Christmas Day was saved, and Rudolph returned a hero. In modern times, Santa is recognized as having 9 reindeer: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and Rudolph. Rudolph and the rest of the pack are usually busy around Christmas time. But for the chance to meet their friends to go on a magical sleigh ride, okay. Like I said, Lapland and Finland, that's where you want to be. Okay? And why do some people think there's more than 9 reindeer? And this was interesting because my father always made a joke out of that song, and this is what this is about. And as we get this, my father, yeah, it was insane. Frank Baum's, here we go. 1902 story, The Life and Adventure of Santa Claus, includes 10 completely different reindeer names. Flossie and Glossy, Racer and Pacer, Fearless and Peerless, Ready and Steady, Feckless and Speckless. So the guy that wrote The Wizard of Oz wrote a Santa Claus story. Another common misconception is that there's a 10th reindeer called Olive. After mishearing the line, all of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names in the famous Rudolph song. So Olive. Now the way I heard it was from my dad was that it was called Olaf. Olaf the other reindeer. But see here it says Olive. So yeah, all of the other reindeer used to laugh and call them names. So that was kind of cool to find out. Okay. So let me move on here. I told you there was a lot of information on these things. So what do we got? Okay. So we're going to talk about reindeer themselves for a few minutes here. And let me get up here. And this is from Wide Open Country magazine. Where Santa's reindeer names come from and other facts about his sleigh team that you never knew. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me enlarge this sucker. Okay, so we might hear information we talked about before. We might hear new information. So we're going to find out here. But like I said, there's a ton of information out there about these reindeers. So we're going to read. And look at me wearing my glasses as I read this. Well, this one I can actually see, so we're going to go this way because I'm vain. We know the lineup of Santa's reindeer more or less by heart. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donder, Blitzen, and of course Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But have you ever wondered who initially gave these legendary animals their names? Santa's reindeer play a prominent role in every classic Christmas movie, centered around Santa Claus. But there's an interesting story behind this team and of holiday helpers. While we'd love to believe Santa himself named his reindeer, the sleigh pulling team as we know it, and the concept of Santa's sleigh in general was actually popularized, and we know this by Clement Clark Moore's poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Dunder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. You might have noticed some difference in the original text from the reindeer you know. For instance, the last two reindeer are called Dunder and Blixen, which means thunder and lightning in Dutch. A few decades later, in an 1860s version of the poem, they were renamed Donder, also spelled Donner, and Blitzen. Rudolph wouldn't be added to the team until 39, when he was created by Robert L. May for a coloring book, right? We knew to sell at Montgomery Ward department stores. Over the years, Santa's reindeer have solidified themselves in holiday traditions and lore. So much so that a lot of people are surprised to learn that reindeer are, in fact, real. If you're curious about both the real life and fictional origins of Santa's famous sleigh pullers, here are a few other little known facts about reindeer that might surprise you. You've probably heard about reindeer in the wild before, just not in the context of Santa's sleigh team. Reindeer are caribou, and caribou are actually the same species, but they have different names depending on how domesticated they are. The so called wild reindeer that roam around the cold climates of Siberia are referred to as caribou, while the reindeer that pull sleds are raised as livestock in Scandinavia are referred to as reindeer. While they absolutely cannot fly, they can run. Some caribou can reach speeds up to 48 miles per hour, giving Santa's sleigh a real run for its money. While a visit from St. Nicholas may have put Santa's reindeer on the map, it wasn't the first time that animals were named as his official sleigh pullers. The first ever recorded reference was an 1821 children's poem that had an accompanying illustration showing Santa's sleigh being pulled by a single unnamed reindeer. Decades after the world became familiar with Santa's reindeer team, Wizard of Oz author, and we talked about this a little while ago, Frank Baum attempted to add two more players to the mix and change up all the names. In his story, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, Santa's reindeers, we'll go over that again, Flossy, Glossy, Racer, Pacer, Reckless, Speckless, Fearless, Peerless, Ready, and Steady. At least they all rhyme. Despite the dedication by rhyming, those names never quite stuck. All right? We talked about Santa's reindeers being female, so we don't have to talk about that. We're going to skip that. This is interesting here in that Rudolph's red nose isn't a myth. Okay? In the story of Rudolph, his glowing red nose is viewed as a potential hazard or a sign of something wrong. But in reality, Rudolph's nose is actually a survival mechanism. A 2012 study found that reindeer in Arctic regions such as Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Russia, and Scandinavia have an increased amount of blood vessels in their noses to help regulate body temperature in extremely cold temperatures. When they're running and working hard, such as maybe pulling a massive sleigh filled with toys for the entire world, these vessels help regulate their body temperature and supply food throughout their bodies. These results, this is a quote, these results highlight the intrinsic physiological properties of Rudolph's legendary luminous red nose, writes one of the study's authors. Quote, the blood vessels help to protect it from freezing during sleigh rides and to regulate the temperature of the reindeer's brain. Factors essential for flying reindeer pulling Santa's sleigh under extreme temperatures. End quote. But not all reindeer have this trait, which is why Rudolph's nose makes him special. And before you ask, his nose probably doesn't light up like a bulb. In most cases, the vessels are more visible in cold weather and can give off a slight red appearance. All right, so that was that article. I tell you, there's all. I mean, the information is endless. Now, let's talk about the reindeer again because there's one more reindeer, and this came up in the Disney movie The Santa Claus. The interesting thing is, once this reindeer appeared, you never saw him again. You know, even like there was that fourth movie, wasn't there? Maybe not. Were there three movies or four? I forget. I know this one was in the third movie, and the whole plot about that movie is crazy because somehow Jack Frost gets control of the North Pole, and Santa, of course, has to save it. And I think it was the second or third movie. And Santa has to save the North Pole, and there's no reindeer available except one reindeer that flies and crashes. His name is Chet. It's supposed to be just a baby, maybe a few months old or whatever. So Santa has to fly Chet to the point that he has to fly him solo, like he's riding a horse, and try to get his sleigh back and stuff. So he does that, and Chet's like bobbing and weaving all over the place. And Disney, of course, made Chet really cute and all this. So anyway, Santa saves the day, and Chet gets to lead the sleigh. So Disney did introduce a new reindeer named Chet, but again, you don't see him. And I think in the movie after, I don't think you see him, and in the TV series of the Santa Claus, you don't see him. But Chet is a thing, and he's actually one of Santa's newest reindeer. Okay, we're on Wikipedia right now. I just switched over to Wikipedia so we can take a look at some of these names. So let me get into Wikipedia. Whoops, let's go that way. Okay, so I'm just going to skip around here because we know we talked about a lot of this stuff. So let's see what we got in here, if there's anything different. See, again, even in Wikipedia, the first appearance was a single reindeer. Ralph Waldo's book. Let's see. Well, that was quick, so we're off of Wikipedia. That didn't take long. So now, we're in this book, Syracuse.com. Reindeer names. So we're going to go one by one with the reindeer, and we're going to talk about them because different articles have different versions of the reindeer names. So we're going to go article by article here. Yeah, let's see what we got. There we go. Have a little drink here. Excuse me. We all know Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen. We know Comet and Donder and Blitzen. And again, this is from Syracuse.com by Chris Baker. Let me make sure I got the name right. Yeah, by Chris Baker. So we'll start again. We all know Dasher, Dancer, and Prancer and Vixen. We know Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. And yeah, we know Rudolph. But just how well do you know them? Okay. The roots of Santa's mystical flying chauffeurs date back nearly 2 centuries to a poem that first appeared upstate New York. Their names have evolved, as have some of their attributes. Okay, so let's move up here and get this. Here's a brief history of Santa's 8 reindeer, and there's dozens of other reindeer. So this is where it gets going. This is from the Troy Sentinel. The 1923 poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, first introduced the concept of the modern-day Santa and his reindeer. Today, the poem is better known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." That poem originally appeared anonymously in the Troy Sentinel, a daily paper in Troy, New York, in a town near Albany. It referred to a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. A visit became the basis for much of modern Christmas lore, and its details about St. Nicholas and his reindeer would go on to be the subjects of countless songs and literary works. The total number of standard reindeer grew to 9 more than a century later when the most famous reindeer of all joined the fray. Rudolph, was first introduced in 1939 in a children's book by Robert L. May. The red-nosed reindeer was canonized in the popular 1949 song by Gene Autry, and again in a self-titled stop-motion animation film in 1964. See, we watch that film every year, right? Now let's talk about Dunder and Blixen. Their names, or the names of most of the reindeer, have remained unchanged from the original 1823 poem, with the exception of those last two, Dunder and Blixen. The change in subsequent years to Donner and Blitzen has become the cause of an authorship controversy over the anonymous poem. American poet and theology professor Clement Seymour first took credit for the poem. In 1836, a reprint of the poem cited him as the author. Some scholars, however, now believe a Dutch New Yorker named Henry Livingston wrote the poem. Here's why. Moore reprinted the poem in an 1844 collection of works, in which he altered the last two reindeer names to Donder and Blitzen from the original Dunder and Blixen. Dunder and Blixen is a Dutch expression that means thunder and lightning. While Livingston spoke Dutch, Moore spoke German. The 1844 reprint changes Blixen to Blitzen. The latter is German word for lightning, while the former is Dutch. The change of Dunder to Donner was likely an error that Moore failed to notice when he reprinted the poem. Since he didn't speak Dutch, right? Eventually, Donder became Donner, which is the German word for thunder. Now we'll talk all the other reindeer. See, there's all kinds of meanings out there of these reindeer. The 8 original reindeer and Rudolph have become the accepted slave pulling team for Santa. But popular culture is littered with additional reindeer. Here are some of the lesser known ones. Okay, we talked about Frank Baum, the Wizard of Oz author, and Chittenden native named 10 Reindeer in his own. So, The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. So, we talked about them. We talked about Flossie, Glossy, Racer, Pacer, Fearless, Ready and Steady, Feckles, and Speckles. Speckless. Feckless and Speckless. Bob Dylan's presidential reindeer. Look at that, Bob Dylan. In 2009, a rendition of Must Be Santa. Dylan rattles off 8 presidents among his listing of reindeer. Now, I didn't know this. Okay, I'm just seeing this right now. So in 2009, rendition of Must Be Santa, Dylan rattles off 8 presidents amid his listing of reindeer: Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Carter, Reagan, Bush, and Clinton. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to watch that video. Remember that? That's Bob Dylan. Ray Stevens' Bumpkin Reindeer. In 1962 comedy country jingle, Santa Claus is Watching You, Stevens names his troop of Bumpkin Reindeer. In addition to the original 8, Bruce, Marvin, Leon, Cletus, George, Bill, Slick, Do-Right, Fred, Ace, Clyde, Blackie, Quinny, Prince, Spot, and Rover. That's kind of cool. Oh, here's South Park. You guys big fans of South Park? In the 2002 episode Red Sleigh Down, Santa's sleigh is shot down with a rocket-propelled grenade, and his reindeer are killed. That prompts the arrival of his backup squad: Steven and Fluffy and Horace and Chantel, Skippy and Rainbow and Patches and Montel. Okay. See all these reindeer. Shadrach, the Black Reindeer. The Black Reindeer from Loretta Lynn's 1974 song was the fastest of them all. Leroy, the Redneck Reindeer. I actually saw this video. It's very funny. In Joe Diffie's 1995 country song, Rudolph catches a cold and has to call his cousin Leroy to fill in. Leroy lives in the sticks, wears overalls, and drives a pickup truck. That's cool. Here's Olive again. We come back to Olive. In 1997, Vivian Walsh and J. Otto Siebold brought to life Olive, the other reindeer in the children's book. Taken from an oft misheard lyric from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Olive is, in fact, a Jack Russell Terrier. That's cool. I can tell you they're smart. The story was enough to prompt The Simpsons creator Matt Groening and others to make the 1999 animated film Olive, the Other Reindeer. See, I'll have to watch this later on tonight. Max. Oh yes, Max. Who could forget Max? In the Dr. Seuss classic, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the title character straps an antler and a red nose on his dog Max during his late night caper in Whoville. That's right. Tundra. Last but not certainly least, is former Syracuse reindeer Tundra, who now lives with the herd in the Buffalo Zoo. The little guy spent years waiting patiently at the Raymond Gifford Zoo for a call to the North Pole. So far, nothing. Okay, so again, there's no mention, and I don't know when this article was written, but there's no mention of Chet. But Chet does exist, at least in Disney lore. He exists. So now, let me pop in here, and this is, I don't even know who this is. Okay, again, we're looking at the names of Santa's reindeer. Let's see if there's anything different in this one. Let me pop this up. So this is going to go into more deeper meaning, and I thought this was kind of cool because what do your names actually mean? Because names do mean folklore names, you know. So we're going to go in there. Each name has specific meaning, reflecting the individual character and the role they play in the team that pulls Santa's sleigh. Try to remember what site this was, and I just want to make sure because I don't want to, get in trouble. So let me do this real quick. Okay, it's namesoftheyear.com because that's one thing I don't want to do is get in trouble with these people. So let's talk about Donner. Oh, Dasher. Dasher, name meaning implies speed and energy. Character. Dasher is known for his swift movements, being one of the fastest reindeer. Dancer. Name meaning conjures images of gracefulness and rhythm. Character. True to her name, Dancer moves with a graceful poise often associated with rhythmic dancing and prancing. Prancer. Suggests a lively and spirited action. Character. Prancer embodies a jubilant and spirited demeanor and with a tendency to prance elegantly. Vixen. The term vixen traditionally denotes a female fox, suggesting cleverness. Vixen brings a bit of mischievous charm to Santa's team, often seen as playful. Comet. Named after the celestial body, implying brilliance and speed. Comet shines for his peerless speed, much like a celestial namesake darting across the sky. Cupid. Name meaning named after the Roman god of love, indicates affection and warmth, reflection of love and happiness. Cupid is known for spreading joy and warmth. Donder or Donner, name meaning deriving from the Dutch word thunder. Donner was known. Donner, who's also known as Donner, adds the strength and power of thunder to the reindeer team. Blitzen, German for lightning, indicative of swift motion. Character, Blitzen embodies the intensity and swiftness of lightning, providing a burst of speed. And Rudolph, name meaning noted for his glowing red nose that cuts through the fog and darkness like a guiding light. Rudolph is arguably the most famous of Santa's reindeer, leading a pack with his unique bright nose, providing illumination and guidance. And remember, before Rudolph became a household name, Santa's sleigh was traditionally powered by 8 reindeer. Each one each one is known for its unique personality and vital role in guiding Santa's sleigh on Christmas Eve. Here's the original team: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid. Donder, Blitzen. The 8 reindeer have been immortalized, of course we know that, in the poem of Visit from St. Nicholas, and to this day they remain the fundamental part of Christmas tradition. So as you hang your stockings by the chimney with care, take a moment to acknowledge the timeless journey made by these beloved members of Santa's team. So, yeah. So there you have it. What is this? Hang on, there's one more thing here I'm looking. Wondered about this. Let me look at this really quick. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, we went through all that. Okay. So there you have it. There is the history of Santa's reindeer, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Like I said, there's so much information out there about them. Some of that was, was repeated and whatnot, but there's just so much information out there about them that it boggles the mind. About the whole thing with the reindeer. And like I said, none of this. They're going to have to update these things because you got to get poor Chet mixed in there too. Because Chet was a huge star with Disney, and yeah, and all that good stuff. So let's talk about the next couple days and what's going to happen. Tomorrow, the plan is we're going to go live. We're going to be broadcasting live from Old Sacramento, and we're going to be attending the Theater of Lights. Now, there's two shows there, but it tends to draw a really huge crowd. So one of my producers is going to be going out there with me, and it just depends, what the parking situation is as to whether or not we're going to go live at the first show or the second show, because sometimes you get down there and you can't park at all. And I've been there, done that with that, where I've gone round and round and round and not been able to park. So hopefully we will get to park and get on the first show. I'm hoping for the first show so we can be on by no later than 7 p.m. Pacific. So that's the hope. Otherwise, it'll be 8 p.m. Pacific. Stuff that's featured there is we're going to get to meet Mark. You get to meet Mark Twain. The Night Before Christmas is told in a very unique way. It's fun. There's lighting and all kinds of stuff that they put into this. And each year this event gets better and better. There's a Ferris wheel there for folks. And they sell snacks, balloon snacks. You can get roasted chestnuts. I think you can also get roasted almonds that have cinnamon on them. They're really, really good, really great snack. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Okay, and this should be interesting. Lots of Christmas carols. They got a beautiful tree there. So that's what we're going to be covering tomorrow. And then Friday, again, we're back here with Medium Nancy Matz. We're going to be continuing our story about ghosts and our show about ghosts and poltergeists. This Saturday night, we're going to do the cruise. We're going to do the Fabulous 40 cruise. And my poor producer has to have her hand out the window with the cell phone so you guys can get a look at all the Christmas lights and stuff. So that's going to be happening Saturday. And then Sunday, there might be something going on that I'm trying to make arrangements to get the permission to attend. I'm going to be there regardless, so I might as well share it with you guys. So we'll see how that goes. And so that might be a live thing too. So it's going to be busy the next few days for us and all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do, because I'm going to head over to TikTok and get things ready in the other studio to build another gingerbread house, I'm going to go ahead and cut off early tonight, and you can join me over there at. I think I'll start TikTok up around 8:10, 8:15 Pacific. And if you have a TikTok account, come on over and we'll start building another gingerbread house over there. Okay, but I really enjoyed talking to you guys about this, and I hope you learned a little bit about these names. Want to make sure I gave credit to all those different sources that I used. But I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. I really appreciate it. And if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're equal opportunity here at California Haunts Radio. We're just trying to get the word out about our little old show. And I really appreciate each and every one of you that have worked with us and put up with us for the last 4 years. I got family members as well that are probably listening in tonight. But I want to thank you all for coming, and I will see you either tonight at 8:15, broadcasting out of the other studio, or I'll see you tomorrow for the Theater of a live broadcast of the Theater of Lights in Old Sacramento. Have a great evening, guys. I will see you tomorrow. I will see you tonight or tomorrow. Bye.